Hello everybody, welcome back to Melbourne, to Albert Park. We've got one more hour of practice today ahead of qualifying for the Australian Grand Prix in that third practice session, around about 15 minutes away. It's another chilly day here. Yesterday it was a bit of a wet, dry day, or I should say a dry, wet day, because the rain came in late on. But actually, as a result of that, it was a really messy afternoon, wasn't it, Naomi Schiff and Jensen Button?
It was a very messy afternoon yesterday, and the teams have been saying that because of the temperatures, it's quite hard to get the tyre temperature up, and that's why we saw the drivers making quite a lot of mistakes today. So it doesn't really look good for them this morning, because the track temperatures this morning, compared to FP1 yesterday, have clearly dropped. So hopefully they live up to that challenge, but we saw how it struggled for them yesterday.
Well, let's ask a man who knows what it's like to win round here. Three-time winner, 2009, 2010, 2012. In your championship winning year, there you go. That was a nice way to start, wasn't it? What are your memories of what it feels like to win round here?
Yeah, Melbourne, Albert Park has been very, very kind to me over the years. It has, but no, it was a real important place for me. You know, first race, obviously, win for Brawn. My first race from McLaren, you know, when everyone said that I'd made a mistake going to McLaren racing alongside Lewis. And then 2012, which was the lights to flag victory, one of only a few with McLaren. But yeah, so give me a lot of confidence starting the season that way, because it was normally the first race of the season, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
What would you say is the biggest challenge on this track? Like, what do the drivers need to get absolutely right to put that car on pole today?
It's in terms of a balance, you need a car that has very good turn-in. So even if the car moves a little bit with the rear on initial turn-in, it's fine. It's about carrying that speed, releasing the brake as soon as you can to carry the speed through the S corners. But also you got to watch out, because it's a street circuit, so you do have the crown of the road. So you're going across that the whole time. So it's not being too aggressive with the steering or too aggressive with the brakes. But I know the guys are struggling a little bit with the tyres. They're getting to turn one for the start of their quick laps, and they're not sure whether the tyres are going to be ready or not. So very, very difficult for them. It's very edgy out there, the cars for them.
Okay, let's come back to that. Let's start with the story of yesterday. It wasn't just the changeable conditions, was it? It was the fact there was an issue with the GPS in the first practice session. That was creating all sorts of chaos. Look, I know they've got rear view mirrors, but it does help when you've got GPS, because they were coming at lots of different paces. I just wonder how frustrating that is when you're in the cockpit.
It is very frustrating, obviously, when you're on a quick lap, particularly in FP2 yesterday. They were trying to, plan out their quick runs, and you've got, not a lot of time on track, especially when the conditions change, to get that lap right. And if somebody blocks you, or there's a car in a very unsafe spot on the track, that's very frustrating. But that GPS issue was only an issue in FP1 yesterday. That was completely solved for FP2, and it still seems to be, traffic was still an issue in the first part of FP2 yesterday. So there might be something about this track, but the drivers will all be looking out for that this morning.
Okay, let's have a look at some of the offs from yesterday, both the dry weather ones and the wet weather ones, because different problems, as you're talking about, Jensen. In the dry, again, searching for the very green track.
Yeah, it's really tricky out there, and it's windy as well. We were talking that it helps having the F2s and F3s here for FP1, getting the track ready for the F1 cars, but still, they're really struggling out there. The cars are edgy anyway, and I think the tyres for this circuit, just speaking to a couple of the drivers, they're really struggling to get them working. It's like they need to go through a heat cycle before they actually, a bit more compliant.
Yeah, and then as far as the wet weather stuff, the usual problems, you've got a wet track, and yeah, a lot of them were finding themselves in trouble.
Yeah, and you could see that a lot of those, the conditions yesterday were not even that wet, and they were on the intermediate tyres. If they get more water, it's going to be interesting to see how they handle that, because on those conditions, those damp conditions, you should have a lot more grip than you would in the rain. So to see them struggling as much as they were, that compound might be slightly harder than we saw last season, because they were struggling quite a lot out there.
I think the forecast today, although there's some dark clouds around, the forecast isn't for rain for the moment, but we'll keep across that. This is Melbourne after all, and you can get 4 seasons in one day. Let's hear from a few of the drivers now. This is what they had to say about their issues yesterday.
It was just a mess. I couldn't get a lap in the afternoon. We made some changes which seemed to be working well into Sector 1, Sector 2, but yeah, not much to say really. I think tomorrow there's plenty to do. Too much to do in FP3, so I think we're going to be somehow going a bit blinded into the race, which should be interesting.
Yeah, very, very messy day, I think, for everyone. Difficult to really put runs together. Obviously in FP1, we could run only early in the session, and after that I didn't get the lap really on the soft. I got a lap, but it was very disrupted, and then it got red flag. So yeah, FP2 wet on the second part. So also got to run today the hard and the medium, not the soft. So no really performance running, which is a bit annoying, but it's the same for everyone, and hopefully we can still work on something decent, ahead of tomorrow.
Traffic is always an issue here, but more so in P1. I think everyone had troubles and people were just going super slow on the racing line. So, but hopefully that won't happen again, and we won't get in each other's way.
It was not even so much about the car; it's just very low grip out there. The tarmac seems to be really slippery already last year. And it's quite tough to switch on the tires. So when you want to go out and immediately push, it's really difficult. And then with interruptions and red flags like we had, you never really get into a rhythm. But I mean, we'll look over the data tonight, see what we have to do for tomorrow, make the right choices, and I think the car will be competitive.
Yeah, everyone today seemed to be out of phase. It's probably a feature of the track, the tarmac, and not giving us a lot of confidence to push on the first lap. So people are doing prep laps, cool down laps, push laps, all together. Mixed means that everyone's doing something different at the same time on track, and it's full of traffic. But by time of quali, we should all get in phase with each other, and it should be better, hopefully.
Okay, so it hampered matters yesterday. I should suspect it's going to be a very busy P3.
It does sound like it. I mean, they obviously didn't have optimal conditions in FP2 yesterday to do all the running that they wanted to do. As Checo said, they're kind of going into today a little bit more blind than they would typically be because of all those multiple factors, the red flags, the conditions, a lot of traffic. You don't know where exactly your competitors are, but it's important this session to just optimize the time that they have on track to check everything that they need to do before qualifying.
But geared more to today, more to qualifying.
I think we'll see people doing a high fuel run probably at the start of the session, and then doing more the low fuel stuff at the end of the session, because no one's got any high fuel running, and especially like teams like Ferrari, that's their weakness at the moment. They need to be doing that.
That's what I was going to talk to you about, Ferrari. That they know that, they're aware of that. Carlos Sainz has said that. He said, okay, we've probably got a chance on the Saturday. We might be a little bit behind Mercedes and Aston Martin on a Sunday. So yeah, it's a balance, isn't it? A fine balance. We're getting everything right for today and then looking into the race tomorrow.
Definitely, but their problem clearly has been, long runs, degradation on the car, clearly in optimal grip conditions on those soft tires on one lap. Their car's not too bad, they're quite competitive, but for them it's important to get that car set up perfectly for the race, because ultimately race day is where you make all the points. Qualifying is great, being in a good position on the track, especially here, it's not extremely easy to overtake. It is important, but for them, they have to figure out how to get that car quicker on race day.
We know the tiers at the top. Just very quickly, Jensen, what do you think about the midfield? Is it going to be tight here again?
I think it will be. Looking at the times in FP1, it's difficult with FP2, but they are pretty tight. Once Red Bull, I'm sure, are going to be out front, but I think behind them it's going to be a close pack, which is great, and I really look forward to it. So they're all going to have to push that extra little bit, which is tricky around here. It's so easy to make a mistake, even for the Red Bulls.
Walls are tight. We know that. Okay, let's just bring you up to date with the details for the rest of the weekend and into the following week here on Sky Sports F1. We're live now for the third practice session. Qualifying's from 5:15. On Sunday, 4:30, with a race start at 6 a.m. for this third of the season in Albert Park. And then we've got the podcast on Tuesday, and that will be on YouTube and Spotify as well. So here we go then, 30% chance of rain in this session. Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes work to do, as all the teams do. Expect it to be busy. Let's get up to David.
It's Saturday. Welcome along, everyone. It's practice time ahead of qualifying for the 37th World Championship Australian Grand Prix. We've reached round 3 in this 2023 season, and here we are in Melbourne once again, where on the 8 occasions a team has finished 1-2 on this track in the past. That team has gone on to win the championship that year. This is our year. A lot of races ahead of us until we get to the checkered flag in Abu Dhabi. This race will be 58 laps long, 3.28 miles this circuit, and count them 1, 2, 3, 4 DRS zones for this weekend to try and give us more chances of overtaking, which was improved last year compared to what we'd previously seen at Albert Park, given some of the track modifications. Tyre information for you. It's a C2, C3 and C4 for this weekend. The medium tyre showing a bit of graining after the first practice session. Will the soft tyre last long enough for our drivers to push as hard as they can for the complete lap when we get to qualifying? It looks a bit choppy out in Port Phillip Bay. The waves are rolling in. They tell me it's not good for surfing around here, but I reckon if you got your surfboard out in these conditions today, you could ride a few waves. Karun Chandok, who's going to be riding the waves on the track. Wouldn't surprise people to know that Red Bull started well yesterday, but who could surprise this weekend?
Well, I mean, it's a tricky one to ask. I think McLaren I'll be interested to see, because they looked a bit better in the first pre-practice session. Lando Norris sort of missed half the session because they were doing some aero work on the car, but still ended up in the top 10. And in the damp conditions in the afternoon, both drivers looked pretty confident. So I wonder if McLaren could sneak both cars into Q3.
Got a big feature with Oscar Piastri coming up. Rachel Brooks took him, she took him, for her, I should say, for a little spin down to Brighton Beach's old hunting ground and haunting ground a few years ago. And he says he's targeting points for this weekend. The homeboy getting points, Jenson Button, here in Melbourne.
I mean, it would have been quite disappointing if he said, I'm really excited about finishing 12th. Wouldn't it? So, you know, I'm glad that he's aiming for points. This is a big race for him. I mean, people always say your home race is extra special, but it's also extra stressful. You know, he's going to be such a busy boy around Melbourne this weekend. I hope that he has the right people around him. He does have Mark Webber helping him out, so he's nice and relaxed and he can get the best out of himself this weekend.
Yeah, there he was on breakfast television on Wednesday, on various other television shows each and every day. He'll be glad to get into the cockpit to get some peace and quiet, I'm sure. But is it all quiet in that pit lane at the moment? Let's head down there. Ted Kravitz.
Hello, Crofty. Hello, Jensen. Hello, Kroon. Hello, everybody. Can I get an Aussie, Aussie, Aussie?
You can. Oi, oi,
there you
oi.
go. Thank you very much. And you know, down here in this part of the world, they like the green and gold, don't they? It's the Australian Olympic colours. And at Aston Martin, we have the green and, well, slightly lighter green. But it's still working for me, because these are the team, these are the drivers, and that is the man, Fernando Alonso, I'm looking out for today. He was quickest, of course, in free practice 2 yesterday. The weekend has gone pretty flawlessly for Aston Martin so far, while it's been messy for others. It's a front tyre limited circuit, and this car is one of the best on its front tyres, and Fernando knows this track better than anyone on the grid, even you, Jenson Button. He's raced around here 17 times. This one will be 18. He's only won it once in 2006, Crofty, I want to say.
Correct, from third on.
Only won it once. Could he win it again in 2023?
Do you know what the date was in 2006 when Fernando Alonso won?
It was March the 29th, April the 1st.
April the 2nd. April the 2nd tomorrow, and it's the first time we've raced here on April the 2nd since Fernando won. He feels that could be a good omen. Tell you what, first things first for Fernando Alonso, getting out of the garage. How tight did that look to try and get the car out of that garage?
It's tight. Yeah, I think that's probably why we had Lando giving it some yesterday with a big sideways motion coming out the garage. We love a bit of that.
Yeah, it's always been a bit tricky here, but the cars have just gotten bigger and fatter, haven't they, over time? And the garages have stayed the same, so there you go. But we should see more action on track.
Let's see how he gets out.
Yep.
Perfect.
Well, it's actually quite deep, isn't it? It's the garage itself is skinny.
We should see more action on track in this session than we have seen in the first couple of rounds in FP3 because of the issues yesterday with the GPS systems and then the rain in the afternoon. So, yeah, fingers crossed, this should be a busy session.
I know one thing, if I was in that car, in that garage, there's no way I was getting out.
Why would that be, Crofty?
Because he's been to the Indian food truck that's just outside our commentary box.
Yes, Schnitty Schnitty Bang Bang, and next door, Two Fat Indians. Is that the name of the van? Karun suggested we both went and had lunch there.
Oh, did you?
We can make it 3 if you want to join us as well.
Oh, you haven't been? Okay,
Not
today
yet.
for lunch, okay.
I mean, only one of us is actually Indian, but, you know.
To be fair, Jensen, it's only 12:30. It's not quite lunchtime yet. And we're hoping that we're going to get a session not interrupted by rain. 30% chance officially of rain here. I think they've painted some more anti-skid and anti-slip paint on that back stretch where it got a bit wet yesterday. We need to get some running in. These teams need to get some running in, and Red Bull need to get some evidence to Daniel Ricciardo there watching on to see if they are the team to beat this weekend. Their rear wing is very, very skinny, but yet they still look like they had enough downforce most of the time yesterday.
They've just built an amazing car, haven't they? You know, it's efficient in a straight line. The DRS is extremely powerful, and we got 4 zones here, which is going to play into their hands in qualifying. You know, it's just they have optimized what they've got, and their rivals haven't been able to step it up. You know, Ferrari, winner of 3 of the last 4 races around Albert Park, dominated last year, and they haven't been able to build on the momentum that they arrived into 2022 with a strong package.
Yes, Charles Leclerc, first and only Grand Slam here last year, one from pole, led every lap, took the fastest lap as well. But the swing since last year between Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen, it's absolutely huge. And is it one team have found their way and one team have lost their way, or is that just the way it goes, Jess?
Well, Red Bull had the speed last year, didn't they? Obviously, Max Verstappen won the World Championship, and so did Red Bull. But at the start of the season, it was more reliability issues, wasn't it?
Not here, because, you know, Leclerc took pole, and even before Max, I know Max dropped out, but I think Charles was already 7-8 seconds in the lead on the same strategy. So this was, you know, I think that early phase of the year, they were faster. The turning point for me came in around Barcelona, where reliability stuff started kicking at Ferrari, and then it just spiraled.
And what the team tell me at the moment, g'day Oscar, how are you? What the team tell me at the moment is that when it comes to practice sessions, we're not really thinking about qualifying. Saturday won that pace, we think we're okay. We are doing as many long runs as we possibly can, because that's where we're struggling.
Yeah, and that's what's hurt them this weekend, because we've had such bad weather, they've not been able to do any consistent runs. So it'll be interesting to see now what Ferrari are actually doing. Are they running high fuel, low fuel? You know, we'll see. I think they're going to do a reasonably long run at the start, just to get an idea of where they are in terms of deg, and then they'll probably run low fuel and go for the quali run.
Kevin Magnussen giving it some on the medium tyre. Track temperature still chilly though.
Yeah, it's only 23 degrees, quite a bit of cloud cover around, and it might well be the case actually for qualifying. You know, it might not get much warmer by the time we get to the afternoon at the end. It's funny, we've come here later in the year, haven't we, than we've in the past, and just coming the sort of 3-4 weeks later has taken the edge off the summer. We're well into the Melbourne autumn now.
We start the race at 3 o'clock Melbourne time tomorrow. You'll be pleased to know, everyone, that we get an extra hour's sleep tonight, because the clocks go back as we head into autumn in this part of the world, which means it's going to get dark at about 6:30 tomorrow night. Now, I was talking to a local guy this morning who said, you get any red flags tomorrow, any lengthy red flags, that's going to be pretty gloomy by the time you finish.
Yeah, it is. It's going to be tough. So, yeah, hopefully it's going to run nice and smoothly. It does mean that we're going to be up an hour earlier, Karun. Well, it's going to be like 5:30 when we wake up instead of 6:30.
You're
still a bit jet lagged.
I wake up at 5:30. Been up at 5:30 every day this week.
But that's what I mean. It'll be 4:30 now.
Yeah.
I'm hoping, if no one's emptying a bottle bank outside our hotel tomorrow morning, to at least stay in bed till 7. Here's Carlos Sainz on the soft compound tyre. His sector times so far are 27.4 and a 17.9, and he's on purple in both, and he's got one more corner to negotiate round. It's a corner that in the support series has been a bit tricky. We've seen a few accidents coming out of that final turn and hitting the wall on the left-hand side. Sainz goes fastest with a 1:19.0 by about 0.6 of a second. His teammate Charles Leclerc currently about 0.3 down on that lap.
Carlos needs a good weekend, really, doesn't he? He's not been up to speed so far in qualifying against Charles, and he had a good race in Jeddah, but think it's quite an important day for him, both FP3 preparing for qualifying and qualifying itself.
I know he took the penalty, 4/10 off Carlos Sainz when he finishes that lap. I know he took the penalty in Jeddah, but that lap to get second in qualifying, I still think was Charles Leclerc showing exactly how good he can be on a Saturday.
It's amazing how he pulls it out, even when they're finding it a little bit difficult. There are only a few people that I can remember in F1 that can actually pull it out right at the end of qualifying and get that lap. So very impressive. You know, they're not running high fuel. I thought they'd be running high fuel now to get a good read on what the car is like on high fuel and the soft tyre.
I'm with you. It kind of goes against what Ferrari were predicting. Words to Freddie Vasseur, the Ferrari team principal, who we saw just briefly on the pit wall. He is struggling this weekend with back problems. He's got a really bad back. He's hurt himself, and he's having regular massage and physio. And well, look, flying down to Australia with a bad back is not the easiest of things. It really isn't. And the word is that he was offered the chance not to come. And he said, no, we're not doing very well at the moment. We could do a lot better. I am not ducking out of this. I'm going to be there for the team, and I'm going to be there to try and put things right. And fair play to Freddie Vasseur with that one.
Yeah, painkillers, get on with it. Good on him.
Says the sympathetic Jensen Button. I'm glad you're not my doctor.
Lance Stroll at the moment on a set of soft tyres, but he's doing a build lap, and I think that's because the track temperature is still so low. And this isn't a high-energy circuit for the tyres, so he's obviously feels like he needs a bit more time to get the front tyres in the right window before he can attack.
I'll tell you who has got the tyres in the right window is Max Verstappen. We'll just head down to the Red Bull garage in a couple of moments, but I want to keep tabs on his current lap. He's going through turn 13 as we look at Pierre Gasly getting strapped into his Alpine. Verstappen coming out of the final corner. These have been two very good sectors, and I think he's about to go fastest overall. He has by 0.3 of a second from Carlos Sainz. Meanwhile, Kevin Magnussen at the corner that Fernando Alonso had a moment at last year, having a bit of a moment himself. DRS shuts, and he just runs a touch wider than he would have wanted, dips a wheel into the gravel and the grass. Ted Kravitz, down to you at Red Bull.
Well, let's see if Max Verstappen goes quickest. I think his teammate Checo Perez would like to go out, but he's not able to because his car has a problem. It's a problem on the left rear corner, and it looks like something with the suspension because the guys are having to load up that corner of the car. The whole side pod, left-hand side pod, is off. The guys have to load up the car so they can actually get some of the rear suspension parts seated. I imagine it's probably a torsion bar that won't go in. Checo is nowhere near getting his helmet on and getting out there. He's not alone in the pit lane. Quite a few drivers, Oscar Piastri, Lando Norris was just going out a little earlier, but quite a few drivers aren't out. You saw the Alpines. But yeah, this is an issue that's taking up some time, and Red Bull need to get a handle on what downforce level to follow with both cars. Max tried a little bit of a lower downforce level, tiny bit lower than Checo yesterday. Didn't really work for him. I think Perez was the more comfortable car, and I think they're both going to converge on that slightly higher wing level.
Well, whatever level Max Verstappen's got in his car at the moment is working quite nicely. 0.2 of a second between himself and Sainz now, but medium tyres for Verstappen when he put that lap in.
Yeah, Fernando Alonso's gone fastest of anyone in the middle sector, and Lance Stroll crossed popped up the third, hasn't he? Here. Yeah. So listen, let's look at this battle between Mercedes and their customer team, which is Aston Martin, of course. Hamilton, he's just not a happy bunny, is he? He's everything he's said this weekend is of a driver not comfortable or confident with his car.
So what's he not comfortable and confident about? What is it about that car that he's finding not to his liking?
Rear end.
Any more?
See, I gave it the dramatic pause there. Because,
so did I.
Throughout the world, people are rear end.
The rear end.
What about the rear end?
For a racing driver, it's all about feel, and it's about confidence in your car. And these cars are as snappy as it is. You know, they're not. It's not a gradual thing where you can slide the car. They're super long. So I think that it's down to him not feeling the rear end. He's not confident in it, and he's a guy that likes to have a pointy car. You know, I remember when we were teammates, he would always have it slightly pointier. And the way he drives through the steering wheel rather than the pedals. So the pedals, he's always the same. So he hits the brake, hits the throttle in exactly the same way on every corner, and everything is done through the steering wheel, so it's balancing the car through the steering wheel. And if he doesn't have that connection to the rear of the car, you can't do that.
As Leclerc goes fastest, correct.
These cars are big and heavy as well. You know, as Jensen was saying, they're quite long, but they've just gotten to the point now where they're nearly 800 kilos.
Yeah.
So to give you perspective, when JB and Lewis started out racing here, they were down at 600. You know, it's added a third of the weight. So
George Russell finding Lance Stroll in his way.
Wow, that was dangerous from the Aston. Right on the apex. That was Stroll.
Just to finish up, when you got that amount of mass starting to slide and you get that movement on the rear, you've got so much more weight, and the momentum keeps it going. So it's, you know, it's harder to recover it in a way that you could, let's say, in a lighter car.
Fernando Alonso really sorting out that Aston Martin going through into turn 2 there. Looked like he approached with a little bit too much speed, but that was beautifully adjusted.
That's a car that he's very confident in. You know, when you look at the Red Bulls, it's super quick, but it's edgy.
Yeah.
Whereas the Aston Martin, it looks planted. He looks like he's got so much confidence in that car, so he can consistently get the best out of it.
It's very benign, isn't it? It's a car that's really working quite well. It may not have the peak performance of the Red Bull, but I agree, it looks like a very compliant car. DRS open.
Just that bit with Alonso going through into turn 2, with the way that the steering input is putting the car back to where he wants it to be.
Bit of understeer there, though.
Yeah, just a touch. Is that what you were saying about Lewis? Same on the pedals, sort it out through the steering wheel, through the corner.
Exactly.
Right.
So
it's like a visual example so people can imagine what you were talking about.
Exactly. So he knows what he wants to do with the throttle and the brake, and it's like, well, this is exactly how I have to drive the car to be quick. And then he fights everything else through the steering wheel, so trying to catch the oversteer and what have you through the corner. And you can only do that if you have a car that's pointy, because otherwise it just causes understeer if you get on the throttle too soon.
Fourth fastest for Alonso, about a tenth off his teammate. It's a bit too much understeer in that car, I think, to drag the lap time out.
But so good lap by Stroll, though.
Yeah, good lap by Stroll. And
Fernando has been on it this weekend so far.
We've got plenty of cars out on the track at the moment. If you want to ride on board, maybe if you were Mike Crack, you want to choose which one of your drivers you'd like to be following a bit more closely, well, you can. As a Sky Sports F1 viewer for this season, we've got all 20 on boards and team radios as well. You can jump on whoever's car you want. We've got Lewis Hamilton on the screen for you currently. So to get started, download your Sky Sports app to the phone or the tablets of your choice, and you can scan that QR code as well to help you along the way. Once you're in there, log in with your Sky ID, head to the Sky Sports F1 channel to choose your driver, and a Sky Glass, Sky Q and Sky Stream customer, you can access this via the interactive button on your remote control. So many of you enjoying all 20 on boards and team radios as well. You can jump on whoever's car you want. We've got Lewis Hamilton on the screen for you currently. So to get started, download your Sky Sports app to the phone or the tablets of your choice, and you can scan that QR code as well.
We haven't got as many high-energy corners for the tyres. Means that in their race pace, I think, will be better than in the first couple of weekends.
Was he going to say that before Charles Leclerc went ahead of Max Verstappen?
He did it as he crossed the finish line and set the quickest lap.
He's quickest on the different tyre.
But the great thing is we've got 1/10 between the top three. Three different cars out there. Yeah, great.
But the worry is that it's the medium tyre for Verstappen.
Well, we also don't know what the difference is between the two tyres. I mean, is it really that big?
4 or 5 tenths. I think yesterday the teams were saying in FP1. Wow. Obviously, as the track rubbers up, it might change, but and 4 or 5 tenths that's about what we've seen in other tracks, isn't it? The C3 and C4.
Yeah. So I was speaking to a couple of the drivers earlier, and they were saying the tyres are so edgy when they're new. So really, really difficult. You come out the last corner starting your lap, and it's snapping, and it's not like a gradual feel, so you don't know when it's going to happen. It's like it's just not ready, and it's too stiff, the construction. Once it's gone through a heat cycle, suddenly the tyre works much better. So qualifying is definitely difficult to really get the maximum out of it.
They're all going to be pointing as Oscar Piastri comes out onto the track for the first time this afternoon. We're on board now with Fernando Alonso, who's gone quickest in the first sector. Now his teammate Lance Stroll putting a really good lap of a 1:18.7, and Fernando a lot better through 9 and 10 that time around.
This is nice.
Yeah, I think the tyres maybe they weren't ready for that first lap, and maybe it's taken a couple more laps to get the tyres into the front tyres into the window.
Well, his teammate actually did a warm-up lap before his lap, but I don't think Fernando did.
Two different approaches to it as Fernando gets close to that wall but doesn't touch it. That's the way to take that corner. 2/10 behind Carlos Sainz goes ahead of his teammates Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen, who's just come back out on track.
You know what they're doing there?
What's that?
Practicing.
Practicing what?
Their approaches. Do you do a build up or do you go straight?
Yeah.
Which is what the session's all about.
So, it's practice?
Yeah. Funny enough.
Who would have thought the clue was there all the time?
They're getting themselves prepared for qualifying. They want to know for this, and they can apply some offsets, right? They go, if the track temperature hovers around this mid-20 degrees, then we probably need to do a build-up. Now, what's going to be interesting is everyone else in the pit lane, the other 9 teams will also watch that.
Like we just have, yeah.
And they'll go, okay, because there's a bunch of drivers, aren't there? You know, including Perez and McLarens and people like that who haven't had a go yet. And their engineers, I wonder if they're saying to Piastri, for example, who's gone out on track, you know, do a build lap, it might be the better approach.
What a lovely day to go and do some sailing in the middle of the track.
A little chilly, but...
Yeah, the wind's blowing nicely.
There's better things to be doing, like watching Formula 1 cars going around Albert Park.
They can't see a thing on those boats there. It's not exactly the most peaceful and tranquil of sailing exploits they'll ever have.
Darling, we're going to go down to the lake today. We're going to go sailing. Look at the birds.
The birds have flown away, trust me. The minute the cars start, they start early here, the birds, we've had this, we're off down the beach, see you later. Nick de Vries with a new floor on that AlphaTauri for this weekend, which hopefully will propel him up the grid a little bit. Stays at 14th, where he's finished the first 2 races of this season so far. Ocon goes 7th fastest, and his teammate Pierre Gasly crosses the line to go 8th fastest. Separated the 2 Alpines by roundabout 3/100ths of a second.
Piastri's not doing a build lap. He's gone straight for it, so we'll see the first couple of sectors are done and dusted. Last corner now, and see if this gets him in the top 10.
No, it doesn't. On the soft tyre as well. Norris on the medium tyre, 2 completely different programs. You kind of expect that to flip round the other way.
Yeah, that's strange. That's a long way off. That's a 1.2 seconds off. So I'm guessing they just wanted their working window.
So Oscar Piastri becoming the first Australian to race in an Australian Grand Prix in their hometown. It's never happened before. And a hometown that he left at a very, very young age to come over to Europe and to the UK to further his racing career, which means he's never actually raced anything other than a go-kart in his hometown before. James Vowles, new team principal at Williams, who of course have raced at Albert Park many, many times before. Damon Hill and Jacques Villeneuve won 2 in '96. Damon Hill won in Adelaide in '95, final race of the season. Won here in '96, first race of the season. Back-to-back wins in the same country. He was very happy to tell us all about that on the golf course on Wednesday.
I bet he was. That's very impressive. 2 very different tracks as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Both street circuits, but this one is more like a normal circuit, isn't it, rather than a street circuit?
Logan Sargent's got to wait a few weeks for his hometown debut. Well, near enough. He was born in Fort Lauderdale, next door to Miami. He is going to love the Miami Grand Prix. How much is he loving Albert Park, I wonder? Fighting the steering wheel a bit as he made his way through the final couple of corners. Was 19th fastest, goes 15th fastest. I dare say if he finishes Q1 right there, he'll be quite happy.
Yeah, he will. You know, yesterday wasn't a great day for him there. The complete power shut off in FP2. But I spoke to him today and he seems like he's really enjoying the track, as he should. It's a great track. It's really fast flowing, bumpy here and there as normal street circuits are, and narrow, you know, compared to a lot of the tracks that we race on now.
So I mentioned a couple of moments ago, only a few hundredths between Esteban Ocon and Pierre Gasly. Let's head down to Alpine. Otmar Safnauer is on the pit wall for us this weekend. Hey Otmar, good afternoon. Great to talk to you. 8th and 9th, is that about where you think you might be this weekend?
Well, we're hoping to be a little bit higher up, but yeah. Let's see. We're out on scrub softs, and we haven't run new yet. we'll do that next. So we'll have a better idea in not much time.
Just hearing George Russell's team radio. It's breaking into us for a few moments. What are the challenges for your team? Where can performance be gained, and what is your car best suited to around here this weekend?
Well, we sometimes struggle with lower speed corners, medium and high speed corners. We seem to be pretty good. We've got decent stability in the high speed, and the drivers yesterday weren't 100% happy with the balance. So we worked on that overnight, and we'll see how we go. It looks like Esteban just put a decent lap in.
Yeah, Otmar, Karun, just as you mentioned, Ocon up to P4 now. How is Gasly settling in? Because he's obviously the new boy in your team. You're 2 races in. You know, is he in a position now where you think he's an equal to Ocon, or is it a phase where he's still having to learn how your team operates?
Well, you know, we're 2 races in, like you said, and we also did a short test in Bahrain. I think it'll take a race or 2, you know, to just fine-tune at the edges, but he settled in beautifully. He gets along with everyone, his engineering team, and he do a good job. But like anything, you know, the more time you have, the better off you are at the margins.
And tell us, Otmar, down on the pit wall, is the GPS all sorted today? Have you, at the teams, got all the information you need to help your drivers avoid all the traffic problems of yesterday?
It looks like it, otherwise we'd have a red flag.
Well, it was a good red flag to bring out, because we don't want danger and stuff. Fingers crossed it stays that way. Take care. We'll speak to you a little bit later.
Yeah, let's see what Pierre can do. It's not a bad lap time from him.
3rd fastest, and still about a 1/10 of a second now between your 2 drivers. Excellent stuff. Sainz is fastest, Alonso 2nd fastest, Gasly, Leclerc and Ocon completing the top 5. Verstappen 6th fastest on the medium tyre. Here's Perez on the soft tyre, Jensen.
Yeah, he's gone.
He's there somewhere.
He's there somewhere. The onboard's a lot more interesting, but here he comes. Through the long left-hander into the fastest left-right corners on the circuit. He's got traffic. I mean, that's destroyed his lap completely. Yeah, I'm still struggling. I'm still struggling to understand why drivers are.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Nico Hülkenberg has 184 races of Formula One experience, what he will have when he starts on Sunday. And what on earth was he doing there?
I mean, the drivers are saying, well, you know, you need to go really slowly with the tyres. So there's a massive closing speed from a timed lap to a slow lap when you're cooling the tyres. But that wasn't.
No.
That wasn't at all. So, no, they need to be a little bit more aware and looking in the mirrors for fast cars, not just because you're damaging their lap, but because of safety.
I mean, that's ridiculous. He's done over 500 practice sessions, and you just can't be dawdling along like that,
I mean,
not watching the mirrors.
That bit's bad, and then this bit is like, just what?
He just doesn't know he's there.
Man, why did you put me on this gap?
Yeah, didn't realise Hulk was high fuel.
And that is the next question that has to be asked, because that's not the first time Sergio Perez has found himself in this situation this weekend. I make it the 3rd time, even with all the rain yesterday.
So Hulk was on a high fuel, but still, he should have seen that the car was going left and pulled to the right a little bit. I mean, he's just going to be all over him for the next few corners, so you might as well let him past. He's still going to get a good understanding on high fuel.
Right, words have been exchanged, I think, between Sergio Perez and Hugh Bird, his race engineer, and I dare say Sergio and Nico might need to have a little conversation a bit later on as well. We have had nearly 25 minutes of this first part of this 3rd practice session, I should say. Carlos Sainz has the fastest lap. It's 2 Spaniards, 1st and 2nd. Gasly, Leclerc and Ocon completing the top 5.
From F1 to Q1, adapt as a team to win. Formula One on Sky Sports, sponsored by Workday, a finance and HR system.
Looking back at old camera phones, I'd look really dark, really washed out. Emma looks great. I look dreadful. You can only see me teeth. when I take a photo using this phone, it's more true to life. It's what we look like. I'm AJ, and I've got a Google Pixel.
What's the point of rewards that aren't rewarding? Pick your own reward when you buy your car, home or van insurance at Confused.
Epic deals now on at Currys. Save £40 on the Epic Samsung Galaxy Buds 2 headphones, the perfect partner for your Samsung Galaxy devices. Trade in your old vacuum and save up to £75 on selected Dyson cordless models, like the V15 Detect Plus, the most awarded cordless vacuum, now $474.99 with trade-in. And save up to £200 on LG OLED TVs with self-lit technology for enhanced contrast and 100% colour accuracy from just $799 at Currys.
At Oak Furnitureland, we know you want furniture that looks great. And what's on the inside really matters too. That's why all our furniture is built to last. For whatever life throws at it. That's lasting value you can trust. There's a real difference at Oak Furnitureland.
Destination unknown.
Let's go.
Hey, give me my ball back.
World's best, together. Qatar Airways, principal partner of Paris Saint-Germain.
Have you been there? Been places no one should go? If you've been there, then you know. There's no such thing as solo. Wherever you go, we go. Every step, every wall, every climb. We always have your back.
The season's first major approaches. It's time to step up.
What a shot. What a shot. Oh, would you believe that? Rory McIlroy, what a round of golf.
And show the strength to overcome any obstacle to get it done.
Oh, wow!
Scotty's hit for what did you just do? Augusta demands. The drama awaits. The Masters, all 4 days, exclusively live on Sky Sports Golf.
Valtteri Bottas, who said there were a few things with that Alfa Romeo car that weren't working right in Jeddah that they've put right, and they're expecting a better weekend this weekend. So let's go through the rest of this lap.
It's actually on a slow lap.
Oh, yeah, isn't it?
Yeah. They've got quite a few updates. I think Ted was telling us yesterday, wasn't he, that Alfa Romeo brought quite a few bits and pieces to the bodywork to try and bring a bit more performance. I mean, you know, they've had a decent start. They got 8th place in Bahrain, points first time out. Jeddah was less successful, but yeah, I think they've just, it's relentless up and down the pit lane. Every team's just got to keep bringing bits.
They got 6th place last year, helped by their start to the season, really. 46 of his 49 points came in the first 9 races of the season for Valtteri Bottas. And, you know, for Alfa Romeo Sauber have traditionally started well and then not had the development budget throughout the rest of the year. They very nearly got pipped by Aston Martin, but managed to hold on to 6th place on the countback at the end of last year. So let's see where they go this weekend. Alex Albon is pushing a little harder on this current lap. JB is bent down to look at our lowest screen here, whilst we've now got a yellow flag in the final sector. Who was impressing you before the yellow flag came out? There he is, Kevin Magnussen, onto the grass.
And in the way of Alex Albon, so that's ruined Albon's lap.
Yeah. I was just looking at the times to try and work out how many cars are actually running high fuel, and there's quite a few out there. Sort of in the 120, 23s, 24s, which would be high fuel, not using DRS, about 5 seconds off the pace. So this is the moment when they're doing their runs, and then I guess 15 minutes to go, that's when they'll take the fuel out and go for it again.
Apart from Yuki Tsunoda, who's just on a 1:19.5, and this was Kevin Magnussen heading straight towards the barriers. That's
a horrible thing, that.
It's
You're just
awful.
waiting for impact. You can't do anything.
It feels like it speeds up,
Yeah,
although
it
obviously it doesn't, but it feels horrible.
The difficulty for a lot of teams out there at the moment is they didn't get the long runs in yesterday, so they need to get some done now, but there are going to be cars out there doing quali sims at the same time that you want to do a race sim, and therefore, as you mentioned, JB, the speeds are quite different.
Yeah, but it's worse for the guys on low fuel, because it's just annoying when you catch up with a car that's on high fuel and 5 seconds a lap slower than you. So it's worse for them. But I think a lot of people now will be running high fuel. Max has just done a 22.8. I would say that's high fuel, and about a second quicker than anyone else running high fuel.
I don't think that was a high fuel lap from Valtteri Bottas, not with a 1:19.2. No. It's a bit maybe slower than he really wanted.
Norris's lap is a bit of a standout, isn't it? Because on the same tyre as Verstappen, 4 tenths away, and they're the only two in the top 16 on the medium tyre for their best lap, and that's a strong performance if they can keep that gap.
Well, 4 tenths off in qualifying could be second place.
Yeah.
No, that's a good lap.
28 minutes and 40 seconds to go as we see more work on Sergio Perez Red Bull. When we're talking about high fuel, low fuel, qualifying, race simulations, what do you guys spot in terms of he's definitely on a high fuel run? Are we waiting for the sector times to come up, or is it the behaviour of the car?
A lot lazier.
A lot lazier.
Very lazy, yeah. And also you don't have, they're not using the DRS.
It's, you just, the extra weight, an extra 40, 50 kilos, you just see the body language of the car is just more lethargic. Yeah. It's, it's the agility of Anthony Davidson versus David Croft.
I'm pretty agile, to be fair.
I've seen.
Yeah, as I proved when I beat him at Scale Electrics the other day.
Did you?
Getting out of that car the other day.
That was very agile.
Pretty agile,
getting out of the Aussie V8 supercar, but I was rapid at Scale Electrics to beat him.
Some debris.
To the debris there. As the race went on, and I quickly moved my hands to cover his eyes, so he couldn't see where he was going.
That's good.
Absolutely the best way to beat Anthony Davidson at anything. Yep. Ted Kravitz, down to you. Where have you meandered to at the moment?
Well, seeing as we're watching a Williams, I thought I'd meander down to Williams. And the new boss, James Vowles, his mantra at Mercedes was all about the pursuit of marginal gains, Crofty. Well, one of them is getting a good exit from your pit stop. And they have been rubbering in.
Red flag,
They've been
Ted,
rubbering
red
in their pit
flag.
box. Okay.
You're going to get very busy in there in a minute. There's debris on the track. That's why.
From
They're
who?
rubbering in their pit box. So I can see now as the car came in.
Albon and Sargent have just pitted just before this time coming in, and have laid these huge lines of soft, sticky Pirelli rubber so that their pit box is nice and grippy for when they need it tomorrow. And if you compare it to the AlphaTauri pit box, nothing. So they're the only ones doing it in the pit lane. There's no difference in this part of the apron. It's not more slippery outside Williams than it is outside AlphaTauri or Alfa Romeo Sauber. It's just that that's James Vowles and his marginal gains for you. So yeah, they're beauties, aren't they?
Absolutely. 2 seconds, Ted.
Guys, there's a debris just before the line. It's actually very dangerous where it is.
Copy, we'll report that.
Well, he's not wrong. Where's it come from?
Looks like it's part of it's obviously part of the bodywork. It's very thin, very lightweight. The worry is that you get a puncher into the high-speed corner. I think it's super light, so it's not actually going to cause any damage to the driver. It's more to the tyres.
Thing is, when you're approaching turn 9, the last thing you want is to run over a piece of debris, pick up a puncture.
Yeah, and you don't know how. When you're driving at 180 miles an hour, you don't know what it is either.
Exactly.
The timing of this red flag is a bit tricky, isn't it? Because, I mean, depending how long it is, do they go back out and try and finish the long runs? But then actually, the information is not accurate because the tyres have had time to relax and cool down. So then, if they would still have the fuel in the car for the long run. So if they've got to prepare for the end, they've actually got to pump the fuel back out and prepare the car.
HR system.
Starting a new chapter can be the most thrilling thing in the world. There's an abundance of reasons to get started. How far we take an idea is a question of willpower. Because progress
is a matter of character.
When you paint by feeling, you can come home to a blooming good day. You can make any space feel like outer space. And your living room? Well, that can become the ride of your life. Change starts here. Dulux.
Just take your time.
I'm so cold. I don't know what to do anymore.
It's okay. Let's get you some help.
You know that concert I was telling you about? Well, I was so close to the stage when I saw her, and she pulled me in. It was so unexpected.
The coolest thing I've ever seen. It was such a scene, but I look pretty hot.
It was so hot. I mean, the look on his face.
Face it. You really missed out on the best
time of our lives. You really had to be there.
When you're with Amex, you always have a story to tell. It's never a question of if it's going to happen, it's when.
Flights, hotels, experiences, all in one place. The best city breaks made easy. TUI, live happy. Financially protected by Atoll.
Every movie from the amazing world of Spider-Man, all in one place.
Who am I? I'm Spider-Man.
Sky Cinema Spider-Man, available now.
Sit back and enjoy a blistering weekend of Premier League action live on Sky Sports.
This is a lovely country, though. Yes, bye-bye.
Enjoy the ride at the Australian Grand Prix, live only on Sky Sports.
Sergio Perez on a qualifying simulation, sadly coming to an end at turn 3 as he locked up and went off into the gravel. We'll get a clean lap out of Sergio Perez eventually. We had a red flag. Nick de Vries and his bodywork was the cause of the problem. Inspector Kravitz has the evidence in front of him.
You mean we can now officially call him Nick Debris?
Yeah.
That was Carlos Sainz,
Yes.
was it not, in testing?
I think it was.
Testing in Bahrain seems a long time ago, Crofty, doesn't it? Remember that?
Yeah,
right, it was the Nick Debris. The debris off Nick Debris was a bit of the engine cover, and in fact, on my left-hand side, I'm just behind him, is the paddock policeman Joe Bauer, who wants to take a very good look at exactly what bit of AlphaTauri this was falling off, because the FIA, of course, in charge of safety, they want to know. Listen, lads, shouldn't really happen this, you know, bits of the curved bodywork where it says the PHA of AlphaTauri, not really meant to fall off, bit dangerous. So that's what the FIA is sorting out with the chief mechanic here at AlphaTauri, just to understand exactly what it was, and hopefully it won't happen again. It wasn't part of the new floor that came off. Just want to underline that. Well, I do notice a difference between Nick de Vries' new floor and Yuki Tsunoda's new floor.
Is that because Yuki went over the gravel quite heavily yesterday and might have damaged his new floor?
Yes, good deduction, Inspector Croft.
Thank you, sir.
Sherlock, shall we call you? So that means that Yuki's running the old floor by further deduction, and therefore the slower floor on paper, or what the wind tunnel says.
5,
can't really bite it, but thanks to...
That's a symptom of low temperature, really. You know, you haven't really got enough heat into those. So I wonder if we've seen, like other people do, he does a cool lap, goes again, and then actually improves.
Thank you for the time being, Ted Kravitz. Might be getting into a couple of preparation lap territory here.
Well, that's exactly what the drivers are saying, though. They're saying they're not working straight away. They need to go through a heat cycle, and they're basically doing a heat cycle on track, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah, so at the moment, anyone else? I can see Joe Guan Yu's on some personal bests at the moment, but nobody else really doing their quali runs.
10 years since Lewis Hamilton made his Mercedes debut here in Albert Park. 10 years since Toto Wolff went to Mercedes too. 10th anniversary for both of them. Ooh. And that was Lewis Hamilton giving it some, going through the first couple of corners.
So if they're saying that it needs a heat cycle, it doesn't help going out the pits and going relatively quick and then really quick.
Perez has had another lockup at turn 3. There he is. He's now aborted his lap, so that's 2 push laps in a row. He's had the same issue at turn 3.
Hoping it's his old tyres.
I think so. I think he's just on a cold lap and gone again, isn't he?
Look at that. On the straights, Alonso nearly 4/10 faster than Lewis Hamilton in an Aston Martin car where they've been trying to get rid of the drag a little bit. And they said it was a little bit draggy and not great on the straights in Jeddah. But that's quite a pace advantage.
It all depends on how much downforce they get on the car, you know. Quicker on the straights, but he might be slow through the corners. He's got less downforce on. Same thing, Checo.
Not quite as dramatic as the one before, but it's another lap ruined.
Yeah.
I keep saying at some stage we'll find out Sergio Perez's true pace this weekend.
Saving it.
Saving it for Q3.
Yep.
It's the drama, isn't it? He's going for the drama this weekend.
Right, what's Lewis up to on this lap, Crofty? Because he's gone personal bests in the first 2 sectors. So
going second fastest is what he's done, and that's a pretty decent lap. 11 thousandths of a second off Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari. So he's hustled that Mercedes. Don't forget, when it comes to hustling a car in qualifying around Albert Park, Lewis Hamilton is without doubt the king of the hustle. 8 pole positions here. No driver has ever taken 9 pole positions at a single racetrack in Formula 1.
Wow.
And I'm not jumping up and down on the bandwagon saying Lewis Hamilton's going to get pole, but you know, he will extract the best out of the car, the most out of the car at this circuit.
I just don't feel that it's all okay with the car. I cannot break into turn 1, very loose rear, and then a lot of front lock going to turn 3. Very inconsistent balance corner to corner.
Nothing jumping out at the moment in the data.
Which is not what Sergio Perez wants to hear. He wants to hear that the team know exactly what the problem is and they can fix it for him.
Yeah, it's a weird one because they're 2 corners that are in the same direction, turn 1 and 3, so it's not a wind thing. I guess the circuit's probably very different, those 2 corners, in terms of the bumpiness on track.
George Russell's gone 3rd, about 2/10 off what Lewis has done, so that's a strong left lap from Hamilton. Perez is going to finish this lap, but it's not going to be a very good one.
No, it's a decent lap at the moment for Alex Albon, who's gone quickest in the middle sector. Perez only 13th fastest. Track's maybe starting to improve a little bit now while we watch Alex Albon. Joe Guan Yu goes 5th fastest, but one person is not coming out, it seems, for quite a while, and that's Lando Norris. Ted Kravitz.
Yes, Crofty, down at McLaren. Lando's car's broken. It's broken. It's broken. No. That's it. No more practice for Lando Norris, and I'm sorry to say he's going to be going into qualifying later this afternoon, later this morning, the time in the UK, without any kind of low fuel practice today with this car. It's a clutch problem, I can tell you, and the team just couldn't really let him go out there, and they need to find out what it is and fix it. And so that's it. Practice over for Lando, and he's talking to Will Joseph and Jose, his performance engineer, at the centre console, and is just going to have to rely on his sheer talent to hopefully get him out of Q1 and even out of Q2 later in qualifying.
Out in Q1 in Jeddah for only the 2nd time in his 84 race career as well. That ended a run of 14 races where he out-qualified his teammate Lando Norris on the back foot going into qualifying here in Melbourne this weekend. Fernando Alonso's gone fastest in the middle sector. Oscar Piastri popped himself into the top 10. Alonso stays 4th fastest. couldn't carry on that momentum in the final sector, or did he back off? Karine, you were watching it more intently than I was.
I don't think he backed off. I think it just didn't have the performance in the final sector. I mean, Lewis, I feel like I've been in the commentary box before. I talked about Lewis in Sector 3 being, he's very good in the way he's able to sort of hustle the car around those last 3 corners. And what's going on here?
Well, he was just trying to find a bit of space and managed to get past Logan Sargent to start another flying lap. So let's see what the king of the Albert Park hustle can do as he heads into turn 1. Oh, he's going to find there's some yellow flags potentially blocking his way, because that's Carlos Sainz. Sorry, Joe Guanyu. And the Alfa Romeo, I knew I'd get those Ferraris and Alfas confused eventually. Hitting the wall. And now, is he parked? Has he found reverse? He's down at turn 2.
That kind of looked like he hit quite hard with the front left tyre on the barrier, but there doesn't seem to be any damage. Just to everyone's new tyre run.
Well, so there's a few have just started a lap that are going to be a little bit miffed that Joe Guanyu went into the barriers, but none more so miffed than the man from Shanghai. Let's have a little look as he heads down towards turn 1.
It's just gone 5th quickest.
He has. 2/10 off the
front
pace.
mark up.
He's actually getting the grass. A bit of a passenger.
Yeah, it was gentle.
Joe, yeah, sorry about that. But okay, the car should be all good.
I think he was looking at his lap time. P5.
If you're going to hit the barrier anywhere, just a little nudge tyre onto concrete, that's okay.
He was a long way past the apex, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Way too quick into turn 1. But as Jensen said, though, P5, that's a good effort in an upgraded Alfa Romeo. So clearly that car, at the moment, working reasonably. We'll see when we get to qualifying, because that's when the engine modes get turned up. Crofty, have we mentioned that both Alphas and both Haas cars have taken new engines this weekend?
I wasn't here in FP1 when the document came through, but they have, you're right.
And that's another sign, isn't it? Race 3, Ferrari-powered cars already having to switch it up.
Another yellow flag. More traffic issues at Russell, ahead of Alonso, and ahead of Max Verstappen.
Hamilton's just done his quickest first sector.
Why have we got a yellow?
I'm not quite sure, because I can't see anyone either going slowly on the driver track that might be in problems.
Any debris from Joe's shunt, I wonder?
Oh, it's drizzling a little bit, says Nick De Vries. Now this Aston Martin that is going very slowly.
That's not in Sector 1.
That's not in Sector 1. It's also just Fernando Alonso building a gap. I have no idea is the answer to that one. So let's go back out onto the track through turn 10. Lance Stroll
on a very good lap here, fastest of anybody in the middle sector, as he got a 10th up on what we've seen so far on for Carlos Sainz. So clearly, if it is drizzling, it's not taking the edge off the track. Stroll's got plenty of confidence to attack as he comes to the last couple of corners.
Stroll going quickest in the middle sector. Fernando went quickest in the middle sector before that. As he benchmarked it, or bookended it either side with a better first and third sector, 700ths off the pace. Still Carlos Sainz out in front.
Times are tumbling, aren't they?
Yeah, Fernando Alonso now goes quickest in the first sector. He's backed off and he's made space, and he's following behind George Russell as we now watch Logan Sargent. This is the bit we saw with Lewis Hamilton a few moments ago. From Hamilton's perspective, Sargent wasn't overly happy that the Mercedes was there and thought that it rather ruined his flying lap. Meanwhile, on board with the Alpine,
but while they're first and second,
he's apologising. So he's obviously knows he's messed up there, Pierre Gasly, and apologising. But they are, as Jensen said, 1-2 in the times. Here comes Alonso up to the final corner, following George Russell.
Getting a nice toe down the straight as well as George Russell starts his next lap. And Fernando Alonso goes fastest by nearly 0.3 of a second. Doesn't stay that for much longer, because Max Verstappen crosses the line 10.5 quicker. He just snuck up a little bit unnoticed by the cameras to record at that fastest time. We still have a yellow flag in Sector 1. As long as you back off, slow down, during that little mini sector where the flags are flying, the overall larger sector, you can still go quicker.
But how are they able to go quicker and have a purple first sector?
Do you think that do you think that graphics just come up? Because I haven't seen any yellow flags on the side of the track.
I'm told Lewis Hamilton is on the team radio and has been saying to his Mercedes engineer Pete Bonington that there might be a problem with the GPS again, because it might be that he can't see a yellow flag down there.
I haven't seen any yellows on the side of the track.
And everyone's going green in the first sector.
Yeah.
You can't do that if you are lifting. It's going to...
I mean, you can.
But you wouldn't, I don't think.
But you're not going to go quicker by much.
No, and you wouldn't take the risk in a practice session.
No, there's no yellows there.
There's no yellows, so... Right, ignore that graphic in the top left corner, but watch Checo Perez at turn 3. Does he get it in the apex? Yay!
It's like he's just scored a goal, ladies and gentlemen. George Russell goes third fastest, while Sergio aces the apex.
I mean, he needed to do that before qualifying. Otherwise, you're just on edge the whole time. But maybe he's backing off too much because he's 3 tenths down on his teammate there.
Yeah, first sector past the button grandstand there on the outside of turn 6 as he heads up this snaking road towards the daunting turn 9 and 10. See if the front end responds for him there. DRS closing quickly as he turns in. Not great middle sector either, is he? Nearly 4 tenths down now, but he's down on prep, isn't he? He's just down on qualifying prep compared to everybody else.
I wouldn't say this is Sergio's favourite track when it comes to qualifying either. Didn't reach Q3 on his first 8 visits here. But last year was, what, 800 slower than Max, and he's gone off to ruin his, what could have been the first uninterrupted soft tyre, low fuel run from Sergio Perez around the 3.2 miles in Albert Park.
Lando's gone purple again in Sector 1. But these guys are impressive. Alpine have been more competitive than I expected here so far.
Well, let's see where Esteban Ocon ends up then at the end of this lap. We've got the clock on Fernando Alonso 2. Ocon was 4th fastest, stays 4th fastest.
Third.
So goes third fastest, but nearly 4 tenths off the pace.
Fernando has not had a great middle sector, slower than his previous lap, so maybe he has now taken the best out of the tyres. Back temperature is still pretty low, but he's not really improving on this lap. We'll see if it 17.727 from his previous run, 17.5 on this occasion, or 17.8 on this occasion.
It's weird. Three flying laps from Fernando Alonso, and all a little bit inconsistent in that there's been purple sectors in each of them, but either side of it, so some, I don't know, scruffy's the right word or not, but sectors where you would have expected more improvement.
Yeah, he is very good in the first sector, and I don't know if that's just because the car's working for him. He's confident to hit the brakes into turn 1, or if he's just doing a great job of getting them in the right window.
I just wonder what he's up to with Fernando. Is there a bit where he's not trying so hard? Is he trying to disguise the pace a little bit? Is he trying to push the tyres in one section to see if there's life left elsewhere? Don't know.
I think Fernando, when he gets in the car, just wants to drive it as quick as he can. You know, he might play mind games in other ways. He might be a very clever racing driver, but I think when he drives a car, he just wants to go as quick as he can.
Well, I was going to ask you that, because you spent time in the other car looking at his data. Did you find he was one of those drivers who held something back for qualifying in his pocket?
No, I didn't. Data, possibly, yes, from your teammate. And in terms of, certain things, but not... I don't think he held back, no. I think he always just went out quick as he could.
Quick look at Sergio Perez, slowest corner on the track. Just wasn't there. The grip
just
he wanted.
I cannot believe this session.
Not been one of his favourite sessions.
He's just got no confidence on the brakes.
No, that much could be evidence. Ted Kravitz, back down to the pit lane. Where are you at?
Where, Crofty? It has started to rain. I'd call it drizzle. I wouldn't go any heavier than that, but it has started to rain. That's not putting off the crowd's enthusiasm. Well, it could look a bit more enthusiastic there, son. Yeah, there you go, lovely. But I'm just concentrating on Alpine. You know, this Alpine pace seems to be real, and no, we're not playing an April Fool's joke on you. Alpine are at the races here. They really are. They were good here last year, weren't they, Crofty?
Yeah.
Before a mechanical issue. And, I mean, we've got Mercedes. Mercedes are better than yesterday. We heard Lewis very downbeat about how the car was yesterday. I think they're better, and they are splitting the Alpines. But, yeah, Ocon and Gasly could well be a dark horse.
2 seconds, Ted.
Few drops of rain.
We expect only drops.
Do carry on, Ted.
Seen
Alpine, of course, I think could have been on pole here last year. Had the hydraulic issue not affected Fernando Alonso and caused that crash.
But also bear in mind that we haven't seen the best of Ferrari yet, have we? I'm not going to venture into tyre chat. I'll let Karun do that, but I don't believe they've run no, I'm not even going to start there. So, no tyre chat. There you go. I think Ferrari have still got some pace to show when they put on the new tyres.
Well, they went out early and set their qualifying simulations. Is that a bit of a track hazard there? Some gravel, certainly, that Nico Hülkenberg had to negotiate. 3.5 minutes to go. Little bit of light drizzle.
But I don't think we're going to see the best of Ferrari today, because they seem to be on the medium tyre, according to the information we have in the commentary box now. So clearly they've opted to switch things up, and there's definitely more raindrops. I can see on the window of our commentary box now, we've got proper raindrops, so the edge is sort of being taken off the circuit, and the ponchos are coming up Crofty in the grandstand.
The ponchos. There was a lot of ponchos here yesterday. The locals knew the weather was rolling in.
I wish they told me my umbrella went upside down as I wanted to turn 9.
Too blowy for an umbrella. It really was, but there's confirmation that Carlos Sainz is on the medium tyre.
You're really quite a lot now.
Right, I mean, this is the point now of the session where you just don't take any risks. If it was qualifying, they'd be on track on slicks, etc. But there you go, that was my brolly yesterday. I sympathise with that man. Someone's gone off.
I heard gravel.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
That would be the Red Bull once again, and you won't be surprised if you've been with us in this entire session that it was Sergio Perez who has just struggled and struggled and struggled.
What is going on? He's flat spotted that set as well.
Yeah.
You see the front right, so
see the water on the halo there. Or maybe it was. We'll put that one down to maybe a bit of a wet track.
In 1 minute and 50 seconds, Sergio Perez will be really glad that this session has ended.
Trouble is, it's going to stay with him. You don't just forget how difficult a session was. He's going to carry that a little bit into qualifying.
Well, we saw the crowd's reaction. This is why they were going, whoa. Oh, and he went in so hot, didn't he?
He was saying that he had rear locking in turn 1, but when you're watching it, you would just say he needs to go rear on the brake bars or lift the car up a little bit so it's not hitting the ground and causing front locking.
1.2 seconds covers Ocon in third down to Norris in last place, who didn't get to do a run. It is going to be so close.
Charles Leclerc on the medium tyre doing a bit of a Sergio Perez going through turn 1.
How wobbly that rear wing is. It's mad, isn't it? Slow-mos.
Yes, they all rather flex.
Yeah.
They certainly do. So they'll come out, they'll stay out on the track, or they'll come out for maybe some practice starts from the pit lane or on the grid, even though meaningful running is now ended because the rain's coming down. It's all a bit gloomy. Jenson Button, thank you for your company. He's now off to the paddock and is running so fast he actually is dodging the raindrops. And Max Verstappen with the fastest time, quickest in the first session of course as well, from Fernando Alonso, 10th and a half between them. And the Alpine pace, Ocon and Gasly, is the headline time. So what have Alpine got that suits this track quite so much? Otmar Safnauer saying that the corners here probably do suit the characteristics of their car just a little bit more. And Ted was right to point out, they were good here last year. And horses for courses often is something that you need to take advantage of. Was it Ocon 7th, I think he was, here last year in Albert Park. Fernando Alonso had a bit of trouble in qualifying.
Oh,
could
he's now stopped at the end of the pit lane.
Yeah, because we're down to 0. That's why.
And he can't go back out
because there's a red light on at the end of the pit lane, and time has run out.
Literally, this would be one of the worst sessions in Checo's F1
Whatever could
career.
go wrong probably has gone wrong, starting with his very first flying laps when he came up to a load of traffic, got hampered by Hulkenberg, and it just didn't get any better. Jonathan Wheatley, the Red Bull sporting director, who's seen a few things in his time, probably won't want to watch a replay of that session.
Yeah, he's going to have a very grumpy Mexican, isn't he, for the next couple of hours?
Yeah, but you've got 2 Red Bull drivers in what still looks very much like the best car in the hands of one of them, but looks very much like a car that would struggle to hold on to 6th place in the hands of the other one. And I don't think, in terms of ability, there's half a second between Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez that the times are suggesting.
I'm really excited for qualifying. I think it's, okay, Max and Fernando are right up there, but there's so much going on behind. If you don't get the tyres in absolutely the right temperature, you could quite easily be, instead of being 3rd, you could quite easily be 13th. It is so tight. I can't stress enough to people at home just how 5, 8 degrees, maybe 10 degrees of tyre temperature can transform your qualifying. Yeah. Absolutely transform your qualifying.
Track temperatures come up by 1 degree, I think, through that session. The air temperature has gone down a little bit, but this rain will just make the track an awful lot cooler. And that might bring the Ferraris into the game. It might help others, it might hinder a few others as well. Max Verstappen begins the debrief with Christian Horner. Just to let you know, race control have just noted Oscar Piastri for failing to follow the race director's instructions regarding practice starts. So I would imagine that's at the end of the pit lane, whereby you're allowed to start in one place. He might have started in another place. You have to keep to the right, I do believe, at the pit lane exit if you're doing a practice start. We're on the grid here with Fernando Alonso doing a practice start. The stewards are now going to look into the Oscar Piastri infringements.
You'd think he did something on the grid for his practice start, because it's instead of, you know what I mean, the infringement could be
possible, because he's now making his way through turn 13.
Tell you what, I'll walk up.
If you're on the grid, you're meant to pull up to the furthest available box, from where you are, first free box.
Exactly, and he's not done that. So I'm watching in race control on the onboard, and he pulled up into P3 instead of into the first when pole was available. So that's what the infringement is for.
I would imagine it will be a fine or a slap on the wrist. There'll be no penalty for the race as it happened in a practice session.
Yeah, it might be a reprimand, possibly.
We'll see. It's been noted by race control. It's been referred to the FIA stewards, and they will now convene to have a little look at what Karun Chandler has just seen at Sky Race Control. Well done, Inspector Chandler.
Are we starting police force? What is going on here? There's a lot of inspectoring happening.
Oh, Ted's gone down to investigate. I came up with a good theory. You've now found some evidence.
We could have a song, couldn't we, like Sharky and George. Time fighters off the paddock.
And on that bombshell, ladies and gentlemen, there is confirmation that Oscar Piastri might have to go and see the race stewards. It's one of those things. There are so many rules and regs that the drivers have to remember, have to keep in their minds. And for a rookie, you're learning that pretty much for the first couple of seasons.
Oh
dear. Sainz going off onto the gravel as he makes his way back to the pits. Well, it is raining here. It is greasy on the track, but he ended up going off the track in the race last year, Carlos Sainz, on lap 2. Had a horror first lap.
And you know what? He's been driving on so slowly, the tyre temperatures have just plummeted.
And that could have been just the most silly little incident.
Saved it. Yeah, good job there.
Costing him dear, as it is. He's kept the wheels turning and managed to get out of the gravel trap.
Lucky, very lucky.
Very lucky. Yes, last year in the race, Carlos Sainz, he had a problem on his steering wheel, didn't he? Qualifying was ruined by Fernando Alonso's causing a red flag. Came out milliseconds before Sainz crossed the line. If it had come out milliseconds later, Sainz would have crossed the line. He would have been much higher up the grid. Then he had to change his steering wheel before the start.
My shoe is stuck on the gas pedal with some rubber or something.
Okay, understood.
I hope he can stop.
Well, he's put it in neutral,
yeah.
So that's a good idea.
That's where you don't want to be the person on the front jack.
No.
When the driver says my foot's stuck on the gas pedal. Yeah, Sainz swapped his steering wheel. His anti-stall had kicked in about 90 seconds before the race, and then he was out at turn 10 very, very swiftly after that.
That's what it was, wasn't it? They changed steering wheel and didn't have the right settings on it.
That's right, yeah. Actually, it wasn't really his fault. So, I think there's still an awful lot to be decided here. What exactly is Sergio Perez's best pace? What is the Ferrari best pace? Because we saw them at different times on the soft tyre. And is Max Verstappen the shoe-in for pole at the track where we've seen shoeies in the past from Daniel Ricciardo? Verstappen 1.5 tenths clear of Fernando Alonso. Esteban Ocon up there in the top 3. It was a good session for Alpine, both of their cars in the top 5. Decent lap from George Russell as well. He finished nearly 2 tenths clear of his teammate Lewis Hamilton, with Sergio Perez and Carlos Sainz in between. Lance Stroll making 2 Aston Martins in the top 9. Zhou Guanyu, really impressive lap from him, 10th in the end. After that, Alex Albon and then Charles Leclerc. Didn't really see him in the latter stages on the soft compound tyre. Lando Norris didn't get a soft tyre run in. He goes into qualifying, not really sure what is his car's best performance on the soft tyre for qualifying. There's a lot to look forward to. It's coming up next.
There is indeed. No one said that Formula One was easy, but Melbourne is making it very, very tricky out there for everybody. Lots to discuss, lots to look forward to for qualifying. Back on air from 5:15 in the UK for that. And on Sunday, 4:30 with lights out for the Australian Grand Prix, race 3 of the season from 6 a.m. Very briefly, Sergio Perez. What a horrible session, Homie.
Yeah, it was a very tricky session for him, particularly. I think everybody out there was struggling quite a lot. It's obviously a lot colder on track today than it has been over this weekend so far. The drivers have been complaining all weekend of struggling to get temperature into the tyres, but also that, you know, this tarmac provides very little grip for them. And I think for Sergio Perez, everything sort of came together between traffic, struggles with grip, maybe pushing too hard to try to get that lap in, and it all just was a bit of a mess for him.
It was always combined. So when he's braking, it's fine. As soon as he turns the steering wheel into the corner, that's when he gets the front locking. So yeah, could be temperature related. It could be hitting the ground. Or it's a setup change they need immediately.
Yeah, trashing a couple of sets of soft tyres.
And also you can say, well, that was practice, we'll move on to qualifying.
Yeah.
But no, that'll be with him all the way into qualifying. But also, it is raining quite a bit. This could affect qualifying.
Yeah, I mean, look, we had a lot of rain overnight or towards the end of yesterday. So obviously, as we saw, track very greasy, it's slippery. But I think it's 1 second separating 5th from 19th, and just a second and a half for the whole field, and that's on that evidence there. There's something in the air, it's moisture, but it just feels like something might be afoot here in Melbourne, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, there's been quite a lot of issues. I think we heard that there was a few more GPS issues again in that session, which is the second time in 2 days, and we've seen how much that's affected the drivers and how often we've seen traffic. So I predict, I mean, the weather's obviously throwing a spanner in the works, but I predict that Q1 is going to be all over the place. I mean, 20 cars on track, all trying to get their times in. Lots of traffic. We've seen tricky conditions. It's going to be tough.
If Fernando Alonso can string 3 sectors together, do you think he can challenge Max?
Fernando's very good at getting the car working for his time lap, and that's going to be a big thing. It's so cold. They're not used to this with these tyres, so it's getting them ready. And when there's 20 cars out on track, they're going to have so much traffic, they're going to really struggle to get them working and find space. So if you're able to work those tyres hard, be aggressive with them and get them working, yeah, there's every opportunity.
Agree with Jensen there?
I do agree. I mean, I think the cars, you know, the Red Bulls, the Astons, the cars that clearly have had a bit of an advantage this season are in a much better position, because I don't think getting out of Q1 is going to be an issue for them. And by the time they get to Q3, there'll only be 10 cars on track. But it's the guys that really are struggling to get out of Q1 that are really going to have to pull that lap together.
Okie dokie. There we go. We're all set, aren't we, for qualifying? We hope it's going to be as fascinating as all 3 sessions have been so far. It's just been a messy weekend. Expect the unexpected. Sprint race in Formula 2's next.
Sky Sports F1. Feel it all.
From F1 to Q1, speed and agility take pole position. Formula One on Sky Sports, sponsored by Workday, a finance and HR system.
This is Debbie's nightmare. Losing track of invoices has led to an unexpected visit from her suppliers. But this is merely a figment of her unwoken imagination. With Intuit QuickBooks, Debbie can see her finances in real time, so there's no surprises.